Hello and welcome to LangChain tutorial. So in this video, we'll see how to create a chatbot that retains previous message history. So LLMs actually are by design stateless. So they don't retain any memory of past interactions. So whenever you are sending a new request, that is treated as a fresh independent request with no baggage from the past. So in case you want to create a chatbot that stores the previous messages, and you want to send them to the LLM also whenever you are making a or sending a new prompt, you want to send that previous message history also so that LLM has some conversation context. Then you can do that, and LangChain provides certain classes actually to help with that. So what we'll discuss here are, there is a message placeholder in LangChain, there is runnable with message history in LangChain, and there is a module named as chat underscore message underscore histories. So using all these, you can build a chatbot with chat history. So that's what we'll do. But before that, let's go through these classes in a little detail so you have some idea how to use them. So first one is messages placeholder, which is actually a prompt component used to inject a dynamic list of messages. So you can inject your chat history using this messages placeholder class. What actually happens is, we have already seen that in messages in LangChain, when you are interacting with the LLM, so what is sent as a user query, that actually is classified as a human message, and the response from LLM is classified as a AI message. So you have these series of messages, right? Human message, AI message, human message, AI message. You send a request, you get a response. So this whole list you can store, right? As a human and AI message, this whole list you can store, and that is what you can inject as previous chat history using this messages placeholder. As the name itself suggests, right? It's a placeholder for the messages, which in this case happen to be the previous messages. So that is what messages placeholder will provide. And one thing you have to remember is, you need to pass a key with messages placeholder. So using that key only, it will identify which variable to use as messages, how to get those messages. So here is a small example how you actually use it to give you some idea. So when you create chat prompt template from messages, you send your uh, current question as a human. This is some system message, and you also give messages placeholder with a key. All right. So that's where it will inject the previous messages or your chat history. So when you are invoking this prompt, so here we have hard coded some messages just to show that in real program we won't do that actually, but just to show that. So suppose I have some history. So this and this should match. So we have a human message and AI message. What is 5 plus 2? 5 plus 2 is 7. And this is the current question. Now multiply that by 4. So how actually it will be sent? So just to give you some idea, how LLM will see it is like this. So you'll have your system message, you are a helpful assistant. Then this history will be also injected. So human message, what is 5 plus 2? AI message, 5 plus 2 is 7. Then the current question. Now multiply that by 4. So now LLM knows, okay, when I say now multiply that 4 by 4, that actually means you have to multiply this number with 4, because it has the previous conversation context. So that's what you mean by providing the contextual information of previous conversations, so that it makes sense to the LLM. So that is the whole idea. Now messages placeholder just inject the previous history, chat history. Then you have this runnable with message history class in LangChain, which actually manages this chat message history. So this will just inject, but for managing this chat history, you need runnable with message history class. So in that, you also have session support. That is one of the main thing in runnable with message history. So you will provide some session ID. Using that, it can get the previous chat history associated with that particular session ID. So that means you can handle multiple concurrent users or conversations, each having its own session ID. So whichever session ID is passed, it will get the chat history for that particular session ID. Now with runnable with message history, you have to pass certain attributes. So one of them is get session history. So it is actually a function. Using that, you will get the chat history from wherever you are storing it, and it needs the session ID. So you pass session ID, and in that function, using that session ID, it will get all the previous chat history using this session ID. Then you can also provide input underscore message underscore key. This specifies the current message. So you associate one key with the current message. Same way you have history message key, which associates one key with the historical message. And one thing you have to note is whatever key you provide here should match what you have provided in messages placeholder. So this key should match what you provide here as history message key. Same way for output also, you can identify create a key which identifies the output of the LLM. So that is how you will create runnable with message history instance. So your chain, then you will provide this function get session history, input message key for current message, and history message key with chat history. One more thing you should remember is when you are invoking this now, when you invoke it using this instance with underscore message underscore history in this case, that time you have to provide one session ID also like this config. So that actually kicks off the whole flow. So from this, it will know which session ID to be used now. From that, it will come here, get session history. There it will pass the session ID that will get all the previous messages for this particular session ID. Then it will refer this history message key. Using that, it will go to the message placeholder and inject all these messages in this messages placeholder, and using input key, it will inject the current message. So that's how the whole flow works. So just remember that here you have to provide this, and when you call it, then you have to provide a session ID using config. So this is about managing. So injecting is done, managing is done, but how about storing those messages? So for that also, there is a module chat underscore message underscore histories module, which provides standardized way to store history of the messages in a chat. So it actually provides a lot of integrations with many different classes. I mean, many different classes are there to provide integration with different kinds of storage. So you have file chat message history. So using that, you can store your messages in a file system. There are many classes for different DBs, be it NoSQL, SQL, or cache based. So you have classes to integrate with Cassandra, Postgres, Redis, SQLite, MySQL. There is also a in-memory storage. So for now, we'll use this only in memory storage. Later, when we actually come to conversational RAG, we'll try to create a full-fledged example where we use some database to store this chat history. For now, we'll use this in memory storage. Okay, so just to give you an idea, we are in this LangChain reference document for chat underscore message underscore histories, where you can see these are some of the classes with which it integrates actually or provides integration through LangChain. So you have class for Cassandra, you have class for Cosmos DB, DynamoDB, file history, then for Kafka also, then for Redis. You have SQL chat message history to connect to any SQL database. Even Streamlit chat message history is there. So there are many classes actually which you can use here and also in memory. That's what we are going to use for now. So these are the three main classes and modules which you get with LangChain, which support creating chatbot with chat history. So that's what we'll create now. But before that, I would like to show you what your UI, which we'll build using Streamlit, looks like. So that's what we are aiming for, to create a UI like this. So first thing, it will ask you for a user ID. So something you give you 123, that becomes the session ID. So I can create two different sessions, each can have their own session ID. Then you confirm it, then only you will start your chat. So user ID is set as user123, u123. So that becomes the session ID for this particular user. And here, suppose I get this, then this becomes the session ID. So we can have, as I said in the beginning itself, with Runnable with chat message history, that you can have multiple user sessions. So that's what I can demonstrate also here. So ideally, there should be a login screen where you give a user to log in, you give two boxes, user ID and password. When user enters, based on that, you assign a session ID. But we are just going with a shortcut. We ask user to provide user ID here itself, so that we can concentrate more on the chat history part rather than creating a login screen and all that. All right, so then you start your chat. So that is what we are aiming for. Then we'll see how the chat looks like once we create this UI. Okay, so coming to coding, I have already created one folder within this L3 LCEL named chatbot with history. In that, I've created one file, chatbot.py, and I've already imported what I need. So new one here are these. So from LangChain underscore core dot prompts, you will get messages placeholder. Then from LangChain underscore community dot chat underscore message underscore histories, you will import chat message history. And from LangChain underscore core dot runnables dot history, you'll import runnable with message history. So these are the new ones. Other you know already what they do. We also need one package, LangChain underscore community, since we are importing from this. So I put it in requirements.txt file and also ran pip install -r requirements.txt. So I have this package installed, LangChain underscore community. That is one thing you need to do. So with that, let me also get. So we'll have a system message, which will be just you are a helpful assistant, something like that, that responds to user queries. And parser instance is created. Then we can also create model. So I'm using chat Google generative AI, so that we can get as model. So our model is also here. So these are some of the initial things. Now for this, I need a store, since I'm using in memory only, not any DB or file system. So for that, you can create here itself a dictionary, because it will store with session ID. So session ID will be the key and messages, your previous messages, as the value for that key. So that's how you can create a store. So that will be an in-memory store. Now with that, what we need to do is we have to create one function which is for runnable with message history, right? Get session history. So get underscore session underscore history, that will need session underscore ID str. So here, when you get that, you can check if session ID is in store or not. So using that, you can actually create a new instance of chat history, or you can actually return it from the store. What you'll do is, if session underscore ID not in store, then what you'll do, you'll create a new, it will be in store, session underscore ID, this key only, right, equal to new chat message history instance you create in this case, correct? Because your instance is not there. What session ID you passed here is a new one, so you don't have any previous history for that. You create a new instance for that particular session ID. Otherwise, you return the store session ID. That anyway you'll return. I mean, not otherwise. You are returning that, which will be the new one. In this case, otherwise it will get from the store, which will have some previous messages. So that will be our message in this function, get session underscore history. If you want, you can also print, right? Retrieve chat history for session ID, which will be the session ID. Then we can create a function, generate response, that will get the data from your UI. So it will get user input or user query, whatever you name it, user input, and session ID. So two things it will get from UI, it will return the response. All right, so you have this generate response, which will get user input and session ID. So if you want, you can also check session underscore ID. If it is there, then you use that. Otherwise, what you can do is you can give it some, so session ID equal to session underscore ID. If it is truthy, it will get that, or you just pass some default session. Then we have to create a chat prompt template using all the information. So that will be prompt equal to chat prompt template, where the system message, first thing we have to pass. Then we'll pass this messages placeholder in this, that is the main thing here. So everything you pass is a list. So first thing is system underscore message. Then we can pass this messages placeholder, where we can give variable underscore name, so some name. So this key will be, let's say, chat underscore history. So you have to pass this, and then human message. So human message prompt template dot prom underscore template. So here I can give some, let's name it the same thing, user underscore input. All right, so we have our prompt ready, which will be prompt equal to chat prompt template. Okay, I'm missing something, right? This should be from underscore messages. So chat prompt template dot underscore dot from underscore messages, where you pass as a list system underscore message, which will be this message. Then messages placeholder. That is the main thing to retain or inject the chat history here when you send it, and current um, prompt or current query from the user, so that you will send in user underscore input. Then what you need is we have to create the instance of runnable with message history. But before that, let me create this chain. So now we have everything, so we can create a chain, so that we'll get this prompt. This I've named as model only. So model and parser. So our chatbot chain is ready. Then we can create a chat with underscore history equal to runnable with message history. So that is what we can create. Here we have to pass all those things, if you remember, right? We have to give chain, then get session history function, whatever we named, and all these things. So this I've named as chatbot underscore chain only. So that will go first thing. Then we have to pass our function name. So this is get session history. Get session history. Then we have to pass one key, which will be input underscore message underscore key. So input underscore message underscore key, which will be this current message from user. Apart from that, what is needed? History message key also is needed, right? This you have to give in user underscore input and history underscore message underscore key. That will be, that should match this. So I'll use the same one, chat underscore history. So we have our prompt, we have our chat with history. Now we have to invoke it. There, remember that we have to send the config also with this session ID. So we'll invoke so that you will generally pass as dictionary, where you pass this. So this key will be what is there in here. So user underscore input only. And what you get as query from user, which will send from UI. So user underscore input and is also user underscore input. So both names are same. So there what you give is config equal to, give config equal to what was that, configurable. With that you give your session ID. So configurable, that again as session underscore ID. There will pass the session ID, which is again session ID only. So session underscore ID, which we get from our UI. So session underscore ID. So that will be our, then we have written response. So this is the whole function, generate underscore response. All right, so get session history, which should match the get session history. That's how you get the session history. Then you config the session ID, that will be passed through this function here. Using that, it will check if there is chat message history previous. Yes, if yes, it will get that, or it will create a new object of chat message history. Then it will check this key here for history message key. Using that, it will inject that history here in your chat prompt template place of this placeholder, that chat history will be injected and this will be injected here. So that is the whole flow for your runnable with message history. Now we come to the UI part. So for that, I'll do it in a separate class this time. So I can create a new class app.py. So here first thing I have to import Streamlit. And we also need this function from here. That's what we'll call with the whatever we get in UI, right? User input and session ID. So from chatbot, we can import generate underscore response. So that is these are the two imports. Then coming to what we need is first thing we can set page config, set page underscore config. There I can give page underscore title. Here, say chatbot layout. I'll keep as centered for this. All right. So this is your page config, which you'll see in the browser. You'll see in the tab what is the name of that, and layout centered means it will come in the middle your UI rather than wider or on left aligned or right aligned. Then we need to give some title, so I can give title. That is what you'll see in your app as a title. So chatbot with history, right? Chat history. So that is the title. So we have page config set and title set. Now within the session of Streamlit, what we need is user ID first thing. So if user underscore ID not in t dot session, so we have to check for this session underscore state. Then we have to set that with t dot session state dot this user underscore ID equal to, we'll set it as none. This should be in double quotes actually, right? So if user ID not in, if it is not already set, then we'll set it here. Okay. And same way we have to set for chat underscore history also. So if chat underscore history not in st.session state, so we have to set this chat history. This will be an empty list in the beginning. So empty list and none. Then you check for this. If st.session, this user ID is actually is none, then you will have to ask for this user ID. So if the user ID is none, then you have to get the input right from user that send this set this user ID. So user underscore ID underscore input equal to st dot input text. We can ask is text underscore input, not input underscore text. Enter user ID. So you will get this user ID, enter user ID, then you can confirm it with button. So if st dot button, here you will confirm it that it is clicked st dot button confirm user ID. Then you can check if there is actually a value or not. So user ID underscore input will use strip to remove all the spaces, is not equal to, then empty space, then you will go. Otherwise, you can set a warning. So if it is equal to empty spaces, this will be if, then you can set a warning. User ID is required, else you will set it to this value. Here is that. So this user ID, or I can take this one. So then we can set it, and we can give some success message also. Dot success. Here we can say user ID. And see, show this user ID. I can give it like this. User ID set, and this one. So we have taken care of our user ID with this user ID set, which is this user ID. Then what we have to do is, we are done with user ID. Now we again have to check that it should be there. If this user ID is there, then only we do anything else. So now first thing is we have to go through this whole chat history. So when we create this, right, this chat history, this has nothing to do with the chat history which you are sending in LLM, which we have already created in the previous class. This is in context of Streamlit only. So Streamlit, when you use, right, whenever you send a new message, this Streamlit will run from beginning, from first line till end. You can visualize like that. So you have to take care of the previous messages. Otherwise, you won't be able to see them. So you have to take care of all the previous messages so that they are visible in the UI. So for that, we have this chat history. It has nothing to do with, I repeat, it has nothing to do with what we have done in the previous class. It is in context of the Streamlit. So first thing, we have to go through this whole chat history, which is a list. So we loop through this for message in. So what we'll do is we'll store it in this chat history as a dictionary, each message, where it will have a role and the actual content. So that's what we can extract also from this chat history. So we can get that using with. If you get right, you will set a container for each role. So that's why we can use with st dot, and we can use the, it has some chat related classes, right? So we st dot chat underscore message and for the role. So we'll have two roles actually, user and AI or assistant, whatever you name it. So with st dot chat underscore message, where we get the role, then we can show that message, not the whole message, content of that message. So that you can show as markdown, st.markdown. Here we can take the content part of that message. So that is how we can show all the previous messages, right? So if user ID is there, that means we already have a user ID. Then we go through this chat history, and for each kind of role, we set those content. So with when we use this with, that creates two particular containers for two roles, because we are going to have two roles, user and assistant. Now with that, we can take the user input. So user underscore input. For that also, you can use a chat related component is there, which is chat underscore input. With that, you get all that arrow and all proper UI, chat specific UI. So enter your query, give something like that. Then we have the user input now. So if user input is there, then what we have to do is, again, we have to go through the whole cycle of if user underscore input. Then what we have to do is, we have to again go through this whole thing. First thing, we have to put it in chat history. So this chat history, we have to put this as a dictionary where role will be user and content will be this message. So user underscore input. Correct? We have to put this in chat history. So that we have to do st.session underscore state dot chat underscore history. We can put role as user, content as user underscore. So we have to append to this list, right? Not just to append. Then we have to show this also. Once you press that arrow or enter, this should also go as markdown. So we have to do the same thing again with st.chat under message with role as user. We have to set this as dot markdown what this user input. So that's what you have to do for user input. Chat history dot append, then with the st dot markdown user input. Now I can actually send that. So response equal to generate. Now we'll call our function which is in previous class. There we'll send this user input, and we also need to send this session ID, so which is a user ID. We have called it here. Is actually the session ID, but it's okay. So that is what you have to send to get your response. User underscore input st.session underscore state dot user underscore ID. Now with response also you have to do the same thing. So st.session append, this time role will be AI or assistant. I'm naming it assistant, and you will set this as content, what you get as response, and same thing there also. That it will be, okay, why do we have message here? You're not getting it. It is user only. Here it will be assistant. So with st.chat underscore message assistant, we will do the markdown for this response. If it is the current message, we can also maybe write it like this. If, and we can give some chatbot response. Is this response correct? So something like this we can give chatbot response. This is also done. Then what else? Else maybe here also we can give a warning. Warning. User input. Please enter a query, something like that. So that is what I think we have covered this also. So here user ID we have to set. So first thing is for user ID. So this part is for getting the user ID, which is actually session ID. I should have named it session ID. Then once that session ID is set, we again go through the whole thing of showing the previous messages, which is this part. Then we take the user input. Then that also we have to set in the UI. So we do all this so that we have this message also, this current message in the chat history as well as response for that. We also show that in the markdown. Else is please enter your query. So that is what we have for our UI part. So we have the code ready. Now we can run it using Streamlit run. While trying to run it, I saw two problems actually. So one thing I forgot this .env, load underscore .env, because we need to load the key for Gemini. So that is needed. Apart from that, another problem I am seeing here that it should be page title. There are a couple of more errors. I'm returning this response, but I haven't assigned it here. Forgot to do that. So response equal to, when you invoke this, then only I can return this as response. That is one thing. Apart from that, this key should be messages, and this key also should have messages. So input underscore messages key and history underscore messages key, not message key. So these two errors are also there. With that, let's try to run it. So we are already in our virtual environment. I have to run this app.py. So Streamlit run app.py class. Let me run it. Go to the browser to see it. It will open automatically. Just to show, I'll start one more session. Okay, so in this, suppose I give as u123. Both are new session only. And one thing is with session is it is for the time you are in browser. Once you close the browser, your session is gone. So in this, I'll give another one. So you can see I can have multiple sessions. Okay, so in this session, if I say, let's say, what is 5 into 2? Meanwhile, in this, I say, my name is, let's say, Alice. So in this, I get 5 into 2 is 10. Then I say add 20 to it. Now, if you see, it will be able to get that context, but that I'm trying to add 20 to this 10. Okay, hello Alice. So here, if I ask, what is my name? Here I've got 10 plus 20 equal to 30. That means it is able to retain the chat history. Let's say here I say my name is Tom. And if you see two sessions, so in that name is different, in this name is different, and it is able to recognize that these are two separate sessions. And within that, if I again ask any famous character bearing the same name, all right, and here I ask something similar. Do you know any actor having the same name? So it is telling me some malice from, okay, this is quite obvious and famous. Then it gives some other names. And here also it gives Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, right? So what I'm trying to convey is that there are two sessions having their own chat history, and every time it is able to get from the session ID which is sent, that I have to get the chat history for this particular session, and in this case from this particular session, and both chat histories are maintained and separately with their own session ID. So that is about um, chatbot with the chat history. Hope you are able to understand and do it. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.